we will discuss or we will answer a very practical question. The question is, once a court convicts an offender, what kind of punishment that is available to him or to her, to the offender? What is the difference between imprisonment, about parole, and about probation? What's the difference between imprisonment, probation, and parole? Open prisons. What does prison administration work? How do correctional institutions attempt to reform offenders? I am going to check the internet connection. Okay, I think it's working now. So let's begin with our lectures today. So what is the meaning of punishment? Actually, punishment is a lawful consequence imposed by a competent court on a person, on the offender who is found guilty of committing a certain criminal offense. Punishment is very different from revenge. Revenge is very personal, emotional, and definitely uncontrolled. On the other hand, punishment is imposed according to the law after a fair trial, following the principles of due process and proportionality. An effective punishment should protect the society. It should hold offenders accountable, respect constitutional values, also deter future crimes, encourage rehab wherever it is possible. Also, an effective punishment system maintain public confidence in the judicial system or in the criminal justice system. Coming to sentencing, what is sentencing and how courts decide punishment? After conviction, the court actually enters the sentencing stage. Sentencing is not actually automatic. Judges consider several factors before deciding the appropriate punishment. These factors can be actually nature and gravity of the offense, intention or mental state of the offender. Judges also consider about circumstances which leads to the crime. They consider about age of the offender, also about previous criminal record. They go with the degree of violence. How is the degree of the offense? How is the degree of the crime? Or what is the amount of violence that is committed? Harm caused by the victim. How much amount of harm is caused to the victim, or what victim receives from this violence or from this crime? The amount of harm. Next, judges consider about the possibility of rehabilitation of the offender. Also, there are various interests like public interest or social interest, and mitigating and aggravating various circumstances relating to justice. Let's, for example, a first-time offender who is convicted of a minor theft. He or she may receive a very different sentence from that of a habitual offender, from that of a offender who is convicted of armed robbery, or maybe that of doggy. So sentencing aims to ensure that punishment is actually fair, it's proportionate, and individualized. So as we learned about sentencing and punishment, now we are moving ahead with the types of punishment. What are the types of punishment which are going to be the core of this lecture and this part of this lecture, that is part 3 of lecture 9. So modern criminal justice system, it usually is different form of punishment depending on the offense and also with respect to the offender. Some of them are like capital punishment you often hear with, which is very controversial in many countries from the point of view of human rights and natural rights of person. There are imprisonment. Imprisonment can be two types. One is simple imprisonment, and another is rigorous imprisonment. Simple imprisonment, the inmates, the offender or the convicted people don't have to work that much hard. In rigorous imprisonment, he or she has to work hard to to earn his livelihood in the prison itself. There can be long-term and short-term imprisonment, as well as lifetime imprisonment or life imprisonment also. So imprisonment, even though we just say that it's a punishment, it has various parts. Other type of punishments can be like fine, like if someone is committing something like theft or something, there can be imprisonment and punishment along with a fine of few thousand or few lakhs rupees. There can be community-based sanction or community service, which is lately introduced by Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita in India, but in countries like United States, Canada, and Europe, the community-based service or community service has been present. This punishment is present for a long time. There can be probation. We actually students actually confuse between probation and parole. So we will discuss what is probation and what is parole in details. There are other kind of punishments like forfeiture of properties by the forfeiture of properties by the authorities, and properties of whom? Properties of the convicted person. If someone has earned something through the proceeds of crime, so his property will be forfeited by the authority, by government authority. There can also be another type of punishment, that is compensation in appropriate cases. Okay, so compensation is also one type of punishment. So let's go into them one by one, from capital punishment to compensation. So what is capital punishment? Capital punishment is actually one of the most severe punishment and most debated punishment available in the criminal law system or in the judicial system. It involves the execution of a person convicted of the gravest offenses prescribed by law. Criminal punishment is not imposed on just a mid-level, just in petty theft or petty crimes or simple crimes. Even on serious crime also, capital punishment is not awarded. On the heinous of the heinous crime, it is offered. It actually involves execution of person involved. So it is often also called in informal language the death penalty. Supporters of the capital punishment, they argue that protesters, this punishment or capital punishment protect society from extremely dangerous offenders. It serves as a strong and deterrent effect to heinous crimes. It delivers justice in exceptionally serious crimes. While there are some opponents who mostly goes with the human right version, they says that human life is sacred, since we have no right to take life of anyone. So they argue in that way, like wrongful convictions can never be corrected after execution. If that execution is wrongful, and after the execution it cannot be corrected. There is continuing debate about whether it deters crime more effectively than long-term imprisonment. So which is better, whether capital punishment or long-term imprisonment in terms of deterring. So this is also important. Yeah, someone is saying William Cook, hi, hello, Mr. or Miss, thank you for watching. There are other opponents who says that internationally many countries who actually observed that many countries has abolished this because of such provisions or such complaints, mainly from human right organizations and human right advocacy. And despite it is there in most of the countries, even though it is practiced in very less numbers, particularly in India. If we in 1980, the Supreme Court constructed the doctrine of rarest of the rare. It holds that capital punishment should be imposed only in the rarest of the rare cases, while life imprisonment is unquestionably the inadequate. Okay, where life imprisonment also doesn't work. In such rarest of the rare cases, capital punishment need to be awarded. This principle actually reflects the cautious approach adopted by Indian authorities. It reflects that how India looks into how Indian judicial system looks into the capital punishment. It is not just simply provided for any heinous crime. It goes into the rarest of the rare crimes. That is what capital punishment is. Now moving ahead to imprisonment. Imprisonment is the most commonly used criminal punishment. Its objective is simply protecting the society, incapacitating the offenders, deterring crime, facilitating rehabilitation, and there can be very different form of imprisonment as I have already said in the beginning of the lecture. There can be short-time imprisonment, there can be long-time imprisonment, there can be life imprisonment, that is imprisonment until death. There can be rigorous imprisonment where law so provides, that means he or she has to, the convicted criminal have to go earn through his earning through hard work. There can be simple imprisonment wherever it is applicable. So modern imprisonment is expected to balance security with opportunities for reform through education, vocational training, maybe with counseling, even with healthcare facilities and behavioral programs like CBT, that is cognitive behavioral therapy. So these 6 principles that we have discussed, including reformative process, retributive process, and all others expiatory process, these are all followed in the process of imprisonment. Coming to another form of punishment, that is fine. So what is fine? A fine is simply a monetary penalty imposed by the court. It is commonly used for like minor offenses, for traffic violation, even for regulatory offenses, and also in certain economic offenses. Advantages are there for fine, like it avoids unnecessary imprisonment, jail or in custody. That's not good actually for a civilized society or a good criminal justice system. So instead, in such cases, he or she is imposed with a fine. So then therefore it the advantage is it avoids unnecessary imprisonment. It also reduces prison overcrowding. It actually provides a proportionate punishment for very less serious offenses. Fine is there for very less serious punishment when there is only fine, but fine is also combined with punishment even in serious and heinous crimes too. But there is one thing, that fine must be imposed very fairly, because an amount that is significant for a wealthy offender may be extremely burdensome for a poor person. It can be extremely burdensome for a economically weak offender. So judges, the justice system need to individualize the sentencing. Every case is different than the other, and every fine should be different from other. There is no standard amount, even though there is caps or there is propositions by Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, but what should be that every fine may be individualized with respect to the case and with respect to the offender. Coming to another punishment, that is probation. Actually, many students confused probation with parole. This is very important, the probation and parole. We we are going to get the difference between probation and parole in a very different, in a very detailed way. Probation actually it allows a convicted person to remain in the community instead of being sent to prison subject to some condition imposed by the court. The conditions can be like good behavior. He or she need to maintain a very good behavior. He or she need to report to a probational officer or a probation officer. There should be avoidance of criminal association. There should be no criminal associations from him or her side. Participation on counseling and treatment. He or she should regularly participate in counseling and in treatment procedures. Also maintaining employment while going through the education. So this is what parole it is considered. This is what actually probation. I am also confused sometimes, so please go through it very carefully in between probation and parole. Probation is generally considered very appropriate. It is for first time offenders, for juvenile, and in such suitable cases, persons convicted in very less serious crimes. Offenders assessed as having good chance of rehabilitation, who some offenders where there is a chance of who can be rehabilitated. So in such cases probation is considered. So the main objective of probation is to rehab while avoiding the harmful effect of unnecessary imprisonment. This is what probation. And now what is parole? Parole is completely different. Parole is a conditional release of prisoner after serving a part of sentence. Okay? Here is also some many legal conditions are subjected. Unlike probation, the person has already served a period of imprisonment. Parole may actually be granted to encourage reintegration in society. In probation, the person doesn't go to jail, doesn't go to correctional facilities or confined facilities, but in parole they spend some time in such facilities, and after that they are released. What condition can be under which they can be released? It can be reporting to authorities, definitely good conduct and avoiding further offenses. Also restriction on movement. He or she is to be required to present in a certain jurisdiction only. So strict movement is required. If these conditions are violated, parole may be cancelled. So parole is strictly on such conditions. If on parole he travels from this district to that district, or this city to that city, his parole may be cancelled. So coming, what are the official distinction between probation and parole? It is most frequently asked in examination. From examination point of view, difference between probation and parole is very important. Probation is actually or generally an alternative to imprisonment and is granted by the court at the time of sentencing. Probation is one kind of punishment which is granted as punishment alternative to imprisonment. On the other hand, what is parole? Parole is a temporary or conditional release after imprisonment has begun, subject to legal rules and conditions. It is a temporary release after imprisonment has begun, subject to legal rule and condition. In simple terms, probation comes before the person. It comes before the prison, and parole comes after imprisonment has commenced. So what is community-based punishment? Now we are going with another type of punishment, that is what is community-based punishment. Modern penology, which increasingly recognizes that not every offender should be incarcerated. Community-based punishment may actually include like community service, like counseling, rehabilitation programs, maybe drug de-addiction treatments, like behavioral intervention, or even educational programs. These measures actually seek to maintain accountability while reducing the negative effects of institutional imprisonment. These are what we learn by community-based punishment, like BNS, that is Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, actually introduced community-based punishment as a punishment in India since 2023, where like if someone is found to be like shoplifting or such small crimes or such not so serious crimes, then he or she may be just given some community punishments and like clean the community house, or just to run or to do similar works. So this is what community-based punishment or community service is. Coming to number 10, that is open prison. What is open prison? Open prison is actually a correctional institution which comparatively fewer physical security than conventional prison. In open prison, there are fewer security than conventional or high security prisons. Here eligible prisoners can be like who work outside the prison during the day, who can participate in agriculture or in even vocational activities. They can live in a less restrictive environment. They can also maintain stronger family connections in open prisons. Open prisons are generally reserved for carefully selected prisoners who have demonstrated disciplined and low security risks. The philosophy behind open prison is that trust, responsibility, and productive work which can support a successful rehabilitation. In India, there are several open prison institutions, and they have often been cited as actually examples of progressive correctional administrations. Coming to the conventional prison, that is closed prisons, which represents the traditional model of incarceration. These institutions have actually high security, or they are called high security prisons, very controlled movement of inmates, restricted access, also strict supervision. Closed prisons are necessary actually for dangerous offenders, for organized crime members, for violent offenders, also for prisoners posing significant security risks to the society. Most prisons around the world continue to actually operate as closed institutions. Now we are coming to the another term which is often used in criminal justice systems, in law, in police administration, that is correctional institutions. What is correctional institute, or what are the correctional institutions? In modern prisons, they are increasingly viewed as correctional institutions rather than merely just place of punishment. The purpose of punishment or prison should be beyond punishment. The correctional institutions actually seek to reform the behavior of the inmates, to improve their education, also provide vocational skill. They addresses addiction with various de-addiction programs, offer psychological counseling, and encourage lawful social integration or reintegration. Many prisons are there in India and even in abroad which provide actually literacy programs. They provide with computer education, industrial training, even agricultural work, yoga and meditation, cultural and recreational activities, and also mental health services. So these initiatives are actually intended to reduce recidivism and to prepare offenders for the life after he or she would be released. What is the meaning of recidivism? Recidivism is something which says that if someone is committing the crime again, even after being released from the punishment, when his punishment finished, he is doing that crime again. So that is what recidivism. Now, as we have learned about the correctional institutions, let's go to another institutions, that is another type of institutions, that is Brostel institution. What is Brostel institution? Brostel institutions are actually specialized correctional institutions which are designed for youth offenders in jurisdictions where such systems exist. They can be like which actually emphasizes on education, on very discipline, on vocational training, character development, and also adjustment. The underlying philosophy of Brostel institution is that young offenders have greater potential for reform than hardened adult criminal. So Brostel institutions are actually developed in the United States, in the United Kingdom during colonial era, and they are actually for juvenile justice or for the offenders who are under 18 years of age. So Brostel institutions are covered in India under Juvenile Justice Act. Coming to police administration or prison administration, definitely done by police or maintained by police also. What is prison administration? Like police administration, who looks into the policing and others, an effective prison system is looked after by professional administration, which is called prison administration. This administration is responsible for maintaining security of the prison, ensuring discipline among the inmates, protecting the rights of the inmates, providing healthcare whoever needed it, and maintaining or checking regular healthcare, managing food and sanitation. Also very important that conducting educational and vocational programs, facilitating various rehab programs, preventing the inmates from escape. Actually, many of the inmates who try to escape through various means, we do have various movies there in Hollywood, even in Bollywood, where prison escape is actually portrayed. There are many incidents in real also. So prison administration has the essential duty to prevent inmates from escaping. They have the duty of maintaining records, also coordinating with courts and law enforcement agencies, including police and all. So effective prison administration, which actually balances security with human treatment. So this is what prison administration, even though we discussed it very briefly, it is of very important scope. So as we have discussed many in the punishment system or types of punishments, let's focus on the prisoners and their rights. One of the most important principle which is in modern penology is the prisoners prisoners not to lose their rights upon conviction. Even though they are convicted, they shouldn't be deprived of certain rights. While liberty is lawfully restricted in prison, prisoners continue to possess some fundamental human rights and dignity. They are actually entitled to human treatment consistent with law. Important rights which may prisoners get or must get, like protection from torture and cruel treatment. They should have access to healthcare, adequate food and sanitation, access to legal assistance, opportunity for education and rehab, also communication with family members subject to lawful regulations. So respecting prisoners' right is not a sign of weakness. It is their right, and we must respect it in a civilized criminal justice system. It reflects the strength of a constitutional democracy committed to the rule of law. So as we have learned about various punishments and prisons, let's go with the challenges when that modern prison or modern prison system faces. Despite significant attempts of reforms, the correctional systems around the world still faces numerous challenges. They can be like overcrowding, there are shortage of staffs, even we see in various movies and series how violent the prison system are, or how there is violence in between inmates are. There are gang activities inside the prison still, they are there. There are drug abuse, mental health concerns, also inadequate rehabilitation programs, maybe limited employment opportunities after release, even though they say that they are improved or skilled. Despite that, the employee prisoner or against a former prisoner. There are also budgetary constraints, and with programs like education and skill development. Even there are another stigma or another limitations which hampers for modern prison system, or to make it a very correctional facility. It can be like that the stereotype of the administration who has been still in colonial mindset, that whoever goes to prison is a very bad person, he is or she is a criminal, and he should be treated according to that principle of retribution. So the reformation or reformative principle is lessly applied, since the administration is not so educated. They are still living in that stereotype. So addressing these challenges require very coordinated efforts involving government, involving courts, also correctional professionals, that is the jail administration, also civil society and other communities. So what is modern correctional philosophy? Modern penology or modern correctional philosophy, it recognized that prison alone cannot eliminate crime. An effective correctional system should combine various factors like let's say accountability, security, maybe rehabilitation, education, about mental integration of community. So the ultimate objective is not merely to punish offenders, but to reduce the future offending and create safer communities. That is the ultimate goal or ultimate objective of modern correctional facilities. So that's what we learned about various sentencing and correctional on rarest of the rare cases. Next, we learned that imprisonment is most common forms of punishment. We learned that fine is a monetary sanction or monetary penal prisons, which actually emphasizes more on traditional security and safety. Correctional institutions, which focuses mainly on reform. There are Bristol institutions of UK origin, which are designed for youthful offenders or juvenile offenders. Lastly, we learned about modern prison administration, which balances security with rehabilitations. We learned that prisoners retain fundamental human dignity and certain rights, which can be legal rights also. So today's lecture has shown Penology. It provides a wide range of responses which is designed to protect society and uphold justice, also encourage rehabilitation wherever it is appropriate. So that is part 3 of our lecture. In part 4, that is final part of our Penology masterclass. In lecture 9, we will study about various prison reforms in India, about correctional programs, various rehab and reintegration programs. We will also study about recidivism and rights of prisoners, landmark Supreme Court judgments. We will discuss about that. various contemporary challenges in correctional administrations, and also we will discuss some exam related concepts. So before I finish this lecture, I would like to ask you one question. Please comment, type in the comment box what is this. I would like to ask, what is recidivism? I explained in this lecture the concept of recidivism. So please go and revisit what I have said about recidivism, and whatever you